You're listening to The Flickcast, a podcast about stuff nerds love. I am Chris Ulrich, and joining me, Joe Dilworth. Hello, Joe. How are you?
I am well. How are
I'm
you?
okay. I just I was trying to think of something funny to say about you. Not funny about you per se, but some way to say something nice, and I just jumped into it and said, "It's Joe Dilworth, everyone," and that's how we start this day. So there you go.
Yeah, and I totally don't know why I reacted the way I did.
It's okay.
But that was
You're just happy to be here, like me.
I totally am, and we're going to talk about some geek and nerdy
Absolutely.
things.
The nerdiest.
I'm very excited about
the
that.
nerdiest. It's going to be a good show. But I guess we could just talk about what we're going to talk about. That's a weird thing to say, but on this episode of the Flickcast, it's going to be some Star Trek stuff and some Peacemaker stuff and some Book of Boba Fett stuff and some picks and all that fun stuff. Sure.
All the usual shenanigans.
All the usual shenanigans, yeah. So, in the interest of trying to keep shows to a certain length, let's dive right into and skip the usual banter money penny. I don't even know what that was. We'll just
Wow.
yeah, that was terrible. Skip M was always upset with Money Penny and bonding, although I don't know why. That's silly, but because Bond is just like
That's who he is, man.
it's
Come
who
on.
he is. My favorite part of the old Bond movies is when he tries to throw his hat onto the coat rack and always makes it. So anyway.
Yeah, I kind of missed that.
Well, no one wears hats anymore. I mean, he's not going to wear a bowler or anything like they used to back in the day.
Well, that's true. Maybe he should.
Maybe he should. I mean, whoever the next James Bond is, whoever that is, can wear a bowler. Bringing bowlers back, baby.
Here's what I'd like to see. See, we're already on a tangent.
Briefly, what would you like to say?
I think in order to let it rest for a little bit with the end of Daniel Craig's run, I think it would be cool if the next era of James Bond was done as a period piece in the time that the novels were written.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I would watch that, like an origin story, original Bond.
Yeah. Yeah, but just like here's Bond the way he was written in the whatever 50s or 60s or whatever. I don't know. I think that would be kind of fun.
Well, they could certainly be more misogynistic and all that.
Yeah. Well, and do like straight up adaptations of the books instead of like pulling various story points from.
Well, I mean, I guess that's interesting because you can make the case that Bond is anachronistic. Anyway, he's an anachronism.
Anachronistic.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
He's a creature of the time he was written in.
Words are hard.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
he doesn't necessarily translate to modern sensibilities. And so if you did that, you
Right.
could certainly, like Mad Men, you could certainly sort of have that, explore those topics. That's actually a really good idea. Maybe that's a one-off, though. I'm not sure you could keep it up because also, to me, that sounds a lot like the Kingsman a little bit,
Oh, that's true.
Which is
Yeah,
fine. I like the
you're
Kingsman.
right.
Apparently, the Kingsman origin story, the King's Man, is supposedly really good if it ever
Yes.
comes out. But
I thought it came out.
did it?
but
I don't know. Everything's delayed. You know how it goes.
I don't go to the theater anymore, so
The
I
theater.
don't know. Yeah,
The cinema. Yeah. Well, eventually, someday, who knows? So, all right. So, on today's episode, we're going to talk about Star Trek. So, let's jump onto that since there's been the trailer for Picard season 2 and some other Trek-related announcements. I will say that I'm very happy that Picard's coming back. The trailer looks amazing. What do you think?
I think it looks awesome. I'm always a sucker for time travel and alternate universe types of stories. And that is obviously where they're going with the second season of Picard. They're in the present day. They're in some kind of totalitarian alternate universe or I don't know what's going on there, but it seems to be Q's involved. I got to say, though, watching the trailer, I'm not gonna lie, I got a little choked up seeing Guinan again. That was pretty awesome.
It's funny because Patrick Stewart's like, you should come on to the show or something, and then they just were joking about it, I think, or maybe that was always the plan to bring her back. I don't know, but people are like, oh, I hope that happens, and then here it is, it's happened.
Yeah,
no, it's great to see her. Actually, I think that's a great addition to the cast. I've always liked Whoopi Goldberg. Whatever you feel about her politics or whatever, and that's not even an important discussion for anything. But I've always liked her as an actress, and I love her as Guinan. I thought she was great. So it's great that bar that he goes to is 10 whatever. When he goes into it, the old
10 Forward Avenue.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But I'm interested, in like you're talking about this sort of an alternate reality because Q's like, welcome to the road not taken or something. Because
yes,
and so it's like, what happens? Picard was like a warmonger because there's that cut to the painting of the Enterprise like in a battle or something, right? So what's going on there?
Yeah.
And then Seven of Nine doesn't have her. So the Borg never existed because she doesn't have her.
I
She doesn't have
guess.
her implants, or she was never kidnapped or captured by the Borg. Because that's what
Right.
happened. That's her backstory. Right? Her parents were stopped or something. I can't
Yep.
remember. It's been
Yep.
so long. So yeah, that's a lot of different stuff. It looks like the Vulcan guy is back. Or who was he? Was he Vulcan or was he the?
It looked like it was a Vulcan, like on
Yeah.
in the present day, mind melding with a human. So
Yeah. So is that first contact? I don't know. Or the Vulcans have been here the whole time, or we don't really know. But anyway, yeah,
yeah, I don't
the
know.
whole thing
Yeah.
looks awesome, and I love the fact that they just obviously sat around and went, so what can we do to flip this shit on its ear a little bit and try
Yeah.
to mess it up? So and try to tell interesting stories. I mean, I guess I got to wonder if the present day stuff is like also budgetary considerations because that's how my mind works, unfortunately. But
Well, no, I hear you on that, and I wonder if it was like also COVID reasons. It's like we maybe we don't do this on a closed set with everybody. Maybe we do it like on location as much as we can
oh,
outdoors,
that's interesting, and just
and
isolate certain groups together, like because
yeah, and maybe to facilitate that better, instead of spending the money to make things look different, we'll just make it a time travel episode, or season
I
or
gotta
something.
think that
I don't
I
know.
gotta think that the writing was probably started before that. I mean, imagine they were going to bring Q back either way, and maybe they were going to bring Guinan back. I'm sure that this will be a question that gets asked to the showrunners, like, why, what was your motivation or whatever
Yeah,
for this
right.
season? I'm sure I would imagine that you're right about the COVID stuff, where it's like we can keep people separated a little bit and keep people away from Patrick Stewart as much as possible. Just let him be on
Yes,
the green screen by himself in a closed room all the time.
yes.
But because the show did get shut down for COVID, I think some people got it on the show. So
Well, that was recently, and that was during shooting the
oh, that was season 3.
already
Yeah.
renewed season
Yeah.
3. Yeah, so I guess it didn't. Maybe they're like, "See, we should have stayed in the past." I don't
I
know,
don't know. Yeah,
but
they went into the future when COVID's over. I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I
It's like,
just
see,
you know what? I guess the truth is I don't care exactly why it happened.
no,
It's
no,
just it's interesting to see these things, and I speculate for what the motivation is, and I'm sure it's partially what you're saying. And it might be budget, it might be whatever, or they're just trying to tell an interesting story, and this is just how it unfolded. But I'm just excited that it's coming back, and it looks awesome. I mean, it really looks good, and so it has all your favorites. Data's back again, although that looks like not Data. That looks like
no.
Dr. Soong, right?
Brent Spiner is
Brent
back,
Spiner's
but
back, yeah.
yeah,
So what's happening? Yeah, I
but
mean,
no, it looks really great. I mean, there is you mentioned budget, and I'm like, I don't know that they skimped on budget because it looks really good.
well, I'm
There's
not
a
saying
lot
they
of stuff
I'm
going
not saying
on,
they
but
skimped. I'm saying that they had to, they reallocated the funds because there's not infinite money, but it's like we're going to spend our money on amazing guest stars because you got to know Whoopi Goldberg ain't cheap, right?
yeah.
So
Well, actually, that's funny you mentioned that because watching the 6 episode final season of The Expanse, when we got to the last episode, I'm like, oh well, that's why it was only 6 episodes because this episode has like 4 episodes worth of budget in it.
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, so I hear what you're saying. That yeah, I do that too. Though honestly, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a whole episode set. They get trapped in one room on the ship for the whole episode, or oh, they're going to be in present day. It's like, oh, so you're saving up budget for something else. I
Well,
see.
yeah, I mean that's how. I mean, not to get too technical, but that's how series are. There's a
Yeah,
line budget where you can you go above that sometimes, but you have to go below it some other times because you got to stick to that line, which is here's the amount of money
right.
you have for the entire run. So each episode, because you have this, that's why you build standing sets so you can keep reusing them and amortization and blah 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 blah. Anyway,
Well, that's why you try to get as much money as possible for your pilot.
right.
So you can build all your standing sets and stuff so you don't have to build those and you can use money for other things throughout the season.
Right. Yeah, I would. I mean, so I'm thinking it's a partially it's like COVID related and partially it's budgetary, but it's just like how can we stretch our dollar? Because even Picard
Yeah.
does not have a finite. It's not a Disney Plus show for God's sake. So
Yes.
they got to stretch it somehow. But it's just you know. I don't care. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. It's just fun to speculate about these kind of things because that's my background also. And so that's where does the money go is
Yes.
always a question in my mind. But it's
Absolutely.
also season 2, so everyone's salaries get bumped. Whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It just looks cool. I don't care. And I guess some people are probably complaining that Q's back. Oh God, boring. So, but I don't care. I like
I
Q.
know some people that were like that, and I'm like, well, I don't know though. I mean, that they always, from the very first episode of Next Generation, Q and Picard were kind of linked, so it kind of makes sense.
Well, like didn't he say something in a different trailer, like the trial never ends or something? It's like he always is.
Exactly. Yep.
He's always watching humanity. So this is another thing. But I suppose you can make the case of people are sitting around in the writers' room going, "Gosh, how can we, what can we do to this season to spin it to another? I know, let's bring Q in, then anything is possible." It's like, okay, I understand that, but is it just,
Yeah.
time travel is a staple of Star Trek. So, and I don't know that this is time travel
Yes.
so much as it's alternate realities more than anything else. So, anyway,
But that's a staple of Star
it
Trek
is.
too.
I don't
so.
care. I'm going to watch it. I don't care.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to look great, and that feeds into the greater Star Trek news that Discovery getting renewed for season 5. Strange New Worlds getting renewed for season 2 before season 1 even airs.
Yeah.
And then I think Prodigy getting renewed.
Lower Decks.
So the cool thing is what this is going to end up meaning is it just kind of mapping it out when Discovery returns in February in just a couple weeks. I think somebody worked out a chart, including the animated shows, that will basically have Star Trek every week through at least July, if not even further into the year. So I'm on board with that. That's really cool.
Yeah, me too. I mean, obviously, I love Star Trek and I always have since I was a wee boy, back in the old OG show. And of course, the cynic in me is like, well, they're just trying to milk it for as much as they can. They got to milk that IP, but they're making good shows. And at least I like
making different shows.
Yeah, I like Discovery, and I like. I'm sure. Strange New Worlds is going to be amazing because I like Anson Mount.
Yeah,
he's great. He's a great Pike. The show looked interesting, and the cast we already have some knowledge of since they were already appearing in Discovery. But I think it's going to be cool, and I'm looking forward to that. And I don't really watch Lower Decks. I don't know why. I just haven't gotten into it, and I haven't watched Prodigy either, which I'm going to have to watch, I guess.
They're both really fun. I mean,
there's only so much time in the day. So.
Prodigy is definitely more geared towards kids, but it's not dumbed down. Lower Decks is first and foremost, it's for Star Trek fans. It's every episode. There's just like tons of Easter eggs. There's they make good-hearted fun of some of the tropes of Star Trek, which is kind of nice. But they do it like in I don't know. It's not done in a derogatory way. It's done in a kind of celebratory way. It's Lower Decks. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. It's really good.
Well, that's good. I'm glad it's not derogatory because no one wants that.
No, but I think what we had, what's coming up with Star Trek a week, I think that's what they were building up to before pre-COVID. That they kind of wanted this one show and then maybe a week or two break and then the next show and stuff like that. And I think they're finally getting back to that. Kurtzman was kind of alluding to that, although apparently I think he was fired again at least 3 times last week. But
that guy's trouble.
In his announcement, his words about all the renewals and stuff, he's like, "Yeah, we're finally getting things aligned the way we originally wanted them, and we even have more shows and stuff that we haven't even announced yet on the way." So,
including Star Trek Academy, which is coming eventually. No.
Yes.
Headed by Tilly. Tilly will be the new head of Starfleet.
I would totally watch a Starfleet Academy future series headed up by Mary Wiseman and Tilly. I think that would be
Star
awesome.
Trek 90210 or something. I don't know.
Star Trek 90210.
They're doing
a
get that.
They're doing a superhero university series with Diggle and the Arrowverse on the CW. So
there you go.
Why not do a Star Trek one?
I mean, I don't know why they haven't done it. It seems really because
that just seems like a no-brainer.
It
right?
does. I mean, you have a bunch of kids, and you have a young, attractive cast. Doing Starfleet Academy. Yeah. And it's like how I guess at some point they have to be the only ship in the quadrant. And they have to go off and save the world or something.
Starfleet 90210. I think
I don't know.
At one point one of the movies was going to be a Starfleet Academy movie and bookended by older Kirk.
Because then
talking about it.
The other thing is you could just bring in guest stars. You could bring in icons of what icons of the Star Trek world are available, still. And they could all be guest lecturing. This week's guest lecture is Riker from the Enterprise D, or whatever. And then next week it's
that would be That would be the beauty of doing it in the Discovery time frame, 1,000 years in the future. They could literally have anybody show up because it'd be like, oh, hologram teachers, right? Oh, here's this course taught by hologram William Riker from 1,000 years ago.
Well, that's interesting. And you could have the emergency medical hologram show up too.
Or emergency education hologram. So
exactly. Quick, tell me some math. Oh, anyway.
Yeah. See, so you're right. That kind of writes itself. It seems like an unlimited show, but
you can do it. I mean, maybe they'll do it. Maybe they just find it boring because Star Trek is also about exploration, strange new worlds, that kind of stuff. So,
true.
Where are these kids going to go? Right? What are they going to do? Are they going to? Maybe it's too CW for Star Trek people. I don't know. Whatever. Maybe it won't happen because it hasn't happened yet. So maybe it's a bad idea. Maybe I'm wrong.
Hey, Kurtzman, though, if you want to do it, hit us up. We'll help.
Right. Totally. Because he's listening. He does.
He totally listens to this.
Totally. So
you know what? You never know who's listening though, because a number of years ago, back at Pop Culture Zoo, when I was doing that, I wrote this article and published it on Pop Culture Zoo about how the Kelvin timeline changed some of the alternate time travel, and it was just this whole kind of intricate, probably more complex than it needed to be article. And Roberto Orsi, who used to partner with Kurtzman, commented on it and sent me an email about it. So you never know who's listening or
telling you how wrong you were.
No, saying, "Wow, this is like really well thought article," and I was like, "Cool, give me a job." No, I didn't say that,
but you should have.
But yeah, no, we kind of corresponded back and forth for a little while. That's so nice. That was kind of, you never know who's listening.
That's true. You never know who's listening. So don't say anything bad about anybody, I guess.
That's right.
Although I don't have a problem with Alex Kurtzman's vision for Star Trek. It's been pretty good so far, I think.
No, I'm a big fan. I like the fact that we're getting more Trek than we ever got before. And at least so far, each show seems to be its own thing. It's different than the others, which I like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely invested in Discovery because I want to see what happens and how that progresses. It was funny. We should move on from Star Trek in a second, but I saw like a promo photo from like the first season of Discovery, and it's like all these cast members have moved on. It's weird.
Right.
There's
yes. Well, that's true.
There's Lorca, and there's what's the other guy's name?
Tyler.
They're all gone now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so not gone. I guess Lorca could come back someday. So
Lorca could show up on Strange New Worlds. Tyler could as well.
True.
Giorgio, Mirror Giorgio's out there somewhere.
Where's the Mirror Giorgio show we're going to get? That never happened.
So they get asked about that, and they're like, it's still in development, but what you need to understand is Michelle Yeoh is kind of busy.
Yeah, it's true. She can't,
and I'm like, I get it.
She can't commit to a TV show, which is like 13 weeks of whatever. Yeah, that makes sense. Michelle Yeoh is busy.
Yeah, but I very much still want to see that Section 31 show. I think it would be fantastic because anything she's in. There's that movie coming out. Speaking of multiverses, that she's doing. That was Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Yeah, that was really cool.
It looks really good. Yeah. So
it's funny. Michelle Yeoh, I've been aware of her for forever, and so I'm sure you have too.
Yeah.
But it seems like in the last few years, she's kind of exploded onto the screen again with like Shang-Chi, and then she was in a bunch of stuff. But I think some of it has to do with her being in Discovery, maybe a little bit.
I think
that brought her back to people's attention again. Not that she wasn't working; she's always working. But I mean, I've been a fan of her since way back in the day, back in the
back before
before Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or before that. So
even before then,
Anyway,
because big fan of Chow Yun-Fat too.
Exactly.
Well before then. So
exactly. So anyway,
I'm just happy that she's getting a lot of work and getting a spotlight, and it's well deserved. Definitely. I will watch anything she's in.
Definitely. So all right, well. Look for all your Star Trek coming out, but I'll be happy to see what happens when Disco comes back. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, and we'll talk about all the other Star Treks in the world. In fact, one day we're going to do a Star Trek centric episode just about Star Trek. Maybe
I think we should. That would be great.
Talk about Captain Kirk and his and the number of women he's been with. No, I don't know.
Riker's been with more, but
that's true. It's probably true. That's true. I think Riker gets around. Although Riker's more of a one-woman man now.
Nowadays
he's settled down. It's okay.
Well, he's married, so I can respect that.
That's right. He's married. That's right. Well, I don't know. I mean, you talk about Star Trek being progressive. Why is marriage a thing? I mean,
that's true.
I'm just saying.
That's
you never know.
Yep.
Anyway, all right. So should we go to Peacekeeper? Peacemaker?
We should.
Peacekeeper?
Yes.
What is it? Peacemaker? Yeah, it's Peacemaker. Well, I
Peacemaker.
keep saying
Yes.
Peacemaker. Peacemaker.
Peacekeeper.
Peacekeeper. Yeah. Or Boba Fett book. I don't know. Let's go to Peacemaker.
Are we sure that's what we're talking
I
about?
don't know. It's that James Gunn show on HBO Max.
There you go. That James Gunn show.
Episode 4 has come out, as people probably know. Not directed by James Gunn this time.
Still looks good though.
Looks good.
Written by him, of
Written
course.
by him. Yeah, I think he wrote all of them, right? As we talked about last week.
Yeah,
But, he didn't direct everyone. But no, this is because he can't do everything. The guy's busy. So talk about busy. I mean, this guy's doing 2 movies at once or something, a show and a movie. And
No kidding. Yeah.
And if I know my James Gunns, and I do, I'm sure he's trying to put 100% into everything. So if Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is coming up, he's probably got to concentrate on that more than the show that's already going. So anyway,
Yes.
I found the direction different. Definitely different.
Yes.
The sensibilities were different, and the shot selection, blah, 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 all that stuff. The directing stuff was different, but not that different because it's still, it's still his show, and the irreverence and the whatever is there. But I feel like there was different kinds of camera movement, different kinds of things, but it was a well-directed episode. I enjoyed a lot. In fact, I think I don't want to say my favorite episode, but I think it's probably my favorite episode of the show so far. I don't know.
I would, you know what? I would agree with that. And there was a lot going on in the show. I'm just gonna. I think this. I don't want to go as well. I do. I think this show is almost a masterclass on how to construct a TV show.
Wow, do tell.
No, I just think it's well paced. It's well put together. Even this episode that James Gunn didn't direct still felt. It didn't feel like too out there. It fits in with what's come before. But I just think, I don't know. There's not like any moments in the show where I'm like, I'll go get some popcorn, or, well, I'll take a break. It's just, it kind of, I'm there for the whole episode and bummed when it's like, oh, it's over. Damn it. When's the next one?
That's funny you said that. This one seemed to go pretty fast. Actually, it was over before
it did.
Yeah. I mean, that's also not a danger, but that's also a thing that happens in like middle episodes of shows, of continuous storylines. It's like, well, at some point, you're getting as much information as you can, but then the whole thing then it's over because they're building to something now, so the pacing is increased and all that.
Yeah.
But
it's totally like, okay, so this is the midway point of the season, so of course they're all going to fight,
right.
And of course we get a twist at the end of the episode,
right.
But it didn't feel like it was gratuitous. It's like, okay, so this is how you do it. It's like, I don't know. It's like there isn't anything, I guess, structure wise that's surprising or different about the show, but it's like, if you're gonna do that, here's how you do it, and here's how you do it well. I guess that's what I'm getting at, and it's well done, and it's one of those that I'm like, as soon as the last episode airs, I'm gonna immediately watch the whole thing in one go to really appreciate it. But yeah, it's just great, and I got to give kudos to John Cena for just going 100% all the time, and it's funny having watched the most recent Fast and the Furious movie, and then watching this, I'm like, so the director obviously of Fast and Furious does not know how to direct people because he was terrible in that, very wooden, just horrible, and in this he is just on it. He's fantastic, even with the dramatic moments. So,
well, I mean, his performance is he's always been working on his acting, but also
but the whole cast too is just outstanding.
Yeah, so. I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, if you're in a Fast and the Furious movie, you're like not the most important person in the Fast and the Furious movie. If you're John Cena,
and the characters aren't really
right. Well, the family is important, but you're not in the family. And Vin Diesel is whatever. And I'm sure there was some trouble. I mean, who knows what the set is like? It's very tense, probably, or whatever. You could sort of make the case that it probably is, but this is probably a lot different. It's probably more relaxed, and there's more of a collaborative atmosphere, and there's more of a it's more fun. You're also making something that's kind of crazy and funny and not super serious. And so there's, but he's
and
definitely,
it's obvious they had a lot of fun
yeah,
doing the show.
but it's also pretty obvious that he's been working on his craft. I don't
Yeah,
want to say
yeah.
that word, but yes, on his work, on his acting. He is funny, and he is really good as this character. Maybe he just identifies with this character more than he did with his
That could be.
Fast and the Furious character. But
His deadpan delivery, Joe,
yeah,
though, is just
yeah,
out of
and
this world. Like when he has the conversation with what's her name, and he's leaving, and he's like,
yeah, yeah.
but the delivery of it was just great, and it's like it still didn't spoil the dramatic moment. I don't know. It's just it's a joy to watch.
It's
I
not
really love this
sexist.
show.
It's just a compliment. It's just the truth.
It's not. Yeah, it's just a compliment. It's not
It's not
sexist.
sexist. Just because you say it's not sexist doesn't mean it isn't. But yeah,
Right. And then the realization that my dad is a racist, and even the vigilante character, because he started out just being like this comical thing, and he has like poignant. I don't know. It's really well done. This was I think an episode for all the characters to shine. They all kind of had a moment in this one, and they all kind of had throughout the other episodes, but this one especially seemed to really give everybody a moment. So
yeah. There's definitely some reveals about some of the characters. I wonder about Amanda Waller's daughter. I mean, she turns out to be a pretty crack shot if she really wants to shoot somebody.
yeah.
The butterflies are what you think. Anyway,
There's
something else. Yeah, which makes sense because in the sort of twist at the end, I can't imagine that. I mean, maybe he'll turn out to be a bad guy. I don't know, but I can't imagine.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think that's going to be what everyone thinks.
But it's like with Sorrow. I think that they're misunderstood more than anything else. They're not trying to kill people necessarily, but
or there's good ones and bad.
Or there's
ones.
good ones and bad ones.
So,
That's possible too.
Yeah.
But she turned out to be. She's definitely getting into her job more. And I do wonder about Jennifer Holland's character. Though. I do wonder why she keeps going to the bar. I mean, maybe she just wants to buy a drink. It's like, what do you think is going to happen? I think she's looking for trouble. Frankly, I think she just wants to. She likes fights, and so she's going to go there to get into a fight. That's my feeling.
I think she presents as, I get the job done, and I'm this cool, calm, collected person that can do the hard choices without blinking. But I think that is showing that, these things actually do affect her, and that's why she's like, I'm going to go drink and get in bar fights to kind of get that's her therapy, I guess, in a way.
Maybe
because I think with Danielle Brooks' character, she's kind of realizing, wow, maybe this isn't kind of the way to go. And I don't think, so because her looks like when she sees how messed up she is from shooting that guy, she's like, oh, it kind of seemed to affect her. I don't know. I think there's more going on than her just being a badass.
Yeah, well, there is.
And she's definitely a badass.
I think it's interesting too that she's like basically Peacemaker's only friend, really. In the show, because they seem to have a relationship, even though they're totally opposites in politics and everything else. But she's the only one who really sticks up for him, and the only one who sees like the humanity in him. He's not just a killing machine, basically. And I think that's. I mean, I don't think Amanda Waller has a daughter in the comics. I can't really remember, but I don't think she does. So this is probably a character that was created for the show. But it's interesting because you can't have everybody hate everybody, and so she's like the one person that I think that Peacemaker, that Chris will be friends with.
She's starting to feel like she knows what she's capable of because she's Amanda Waller's daughter, and she doesn't want to go that way because like that whole thing of manipulating Vigilante into killing Peacemaker's dad, I was like, holy cow. I mean, and it was done well, and even she was just kind of like, I talked him into doing it, and they're like, what? So, and like you said, she's obviously a crack shot, so I think she's like, I don't want to be like mom, or I don't want to be that way, especially the more that the characters talk about Amanda Waller. She's probably like, that's not really the mom I know, but holy cow, that's how she is. That's messed up. So, but still, like, I never killed a man before. Well, you still haven't. He's still alive.
Yeah, you still haven't killed anybody. Yeah, good.
It's like that dude. That dude is like indestructible.
Pretty much. Well, it's just a flesh wound.
It's like, was it ninjas can, if their heart stops, they can move their kidney into place and take over. She's like, that's not how that
works. Maybe he was really a duck dressed like a human. We don't know. But
That's right. He could be.
that's something that was interesting about this episode. It had two different post-credit sequences, or
Yes.
but just
Yes.
extensions of scenes that were already pretty funny, like the whole improv about the duck and the duck costume and all that stuff. I keep thinking, are we going to see Howard the Duck? But then I realize it's a DC property, so we're not going to. But anyway,
Oh, that's true. We can't.
sadly. But anyway,
Here's the thing, though. This episode brings up a point I want to talk about
Sure.
Batman that I think I've argued on this show before. When he's all like, Batman's a pussy because he fights these, murderers, psychopathic murderers dressed up like clowns, and then he throws them into jail, and they just break out again and kill more people. How much blood is indirectly on Batman's
was a pretty
hands?
good.
I've been arguing that for a long time.
That was a pretty good scene, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I get, oh, my parents were murdered. I'll never kill, but it's like how, at least, especially like in Superman's case, and that was my whole thing about why I didn't have a problem with Superman killing Zod in Man of Steel, because there is no rehabilitation there. There is no prison that could hold him. And he was just like, I'm going to destroy this planet and remake it as my own. So, to me, it was like the impossible choice. And Superman realized, I got to do this. And, obviously, I think that leads to him going, I'm never going to do that again because that's not cool. But in Batman's case, like Joker, Riddler and Penguin possibly, but Joker's never going to be rehabilitated. He's just insane. He likes killing people, and that's just going to continue. And he's not going to be held by any prison. Some of the other villains that Batman fights are just out and out evil, and they enjoy killing. They're never going to be rehabilitated. They're never going to stay incarcerated. So, yeah, how much blood is on Batman's hands at this point?
A lot.
So,
but
yeah,
that's the thing when you have your subject matter be from comic books that were supposed to be for kids, because you can't have a
right.
You can't have a
right.
You can't have a crazy vigilante that goes around killing people.
You can't have a Peacemaker.
You can't have a Peacemaker, and you can't have Batman murder anybody. But have they not seen the Zack Snyder Justice League? Because Batman murders a lot of dudes in that one. But it's just
exactly.
Is that canon or isn't it? Because he does kill a lot of people in that one. But anyway,
I did like the distinction. Peacemaker's like, yeah, I will, I want peace at any cost. I'll kill any man, woman, and child that I have to, but I'm not going to do it just because you say so.
Right.
It's like, oh,
well, that's how they're sort of not retconning it, but that's how they're kind of humanizing him more. He just won't do it for no reason. He's not like Vigilante, who is just a straight up sociopath, a psychopath, whatever, who will kill people. I'm sure that's one of the reasons for that character in the show, so you can show more of the extreme. Because I think he's like almost in a way the placeholder for Batman, what Batman's supposed to be. Well, that's why this whole thing comes up. It's like, why wouldn't he kill people?
Right.
Like, I'll kill anybody. I don't care if they're bad. So
right.
It's just, but then he of course makes things worse. But I like
Vigilante brings up that distinction.
That's what I'm talking about, Vigilante. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, you've killed a lot of people, but they were all bad people.
They were all bad.
Yeah. But I still love him just going in and sitting at the table with Smith's dad and his friends and just inciting them and then just summarily kicking their ass. That was kind of satisfying in a certain way.
And I did notice that Peacemaker gets his superhero landing at one point during the show too.
He did. Yes. That was pretty great.
He's obviously a good guy, right?
Yeah.
And they keep
exactly.
So I think you could sum up the entire arc for Peacemaker by one line from Rick Flag, though. Peacemaker, what a joke, right?
Well, that's funny you bring that up because for not being on the cast of the show, Joel Kinnaman's sure getting a lot of screen time.
He's in the show a lot, yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, this is how you're defining this character for this show. Is like, his arc is, I'm not a joke.
Right.
So I need to be more serious, or I need to take a hard look at my life, including what happened to me in the past and everything, and what had shaped me and what kind of a person I want to be. Am I a hero? I want to be a hero. I think he does want to be a hero. And he's realizing that that's, a lot different than what his dad thought it was, and a lot different than what he has been trying to be up to this point. So, but yeah, it's like that summarizes it to me, at least, and I'm sure that's why they keep bringing it back. It's like, what is Peacemaker's, what does he want? What is his need?
Right. And obviously his vision of who his dad is not reality, and he's having to come to terms with, my dad's a supervillain, a racist supervillain. So who basically made me kill people for his own pleasure, basically. So
right. Which it's funny because I was reminded of other movies like the like Kick-Ass, right, where he's training Hit Girl to kill people. It's like, that was adorable. because she's adorable, but it's horrible.
Yeah.
This was horrible. So I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I just think that it's interesting to explore these characters like this. Although I will say that the one character who's probably not going to have an arc on this show or have any kind of change is Robert Patrick as Augie. He's not going to change.
Yeah. No,
He's going to be
not.
a racist from the beginning of the show and a racist from the end to the end of the show. Although,
Yes, exactly.
And I one more question before we move on is: do you think that Vigilante's observation about his cost is like, oh, he's got like there's some vulnerabilities in the costume where it's whatever. You think that's going to come into play later?
Oh, the armor. Yeah, he's like, oh, there's like gaps in the armor.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have just.
So when
that
Peacemaker
up for
eventually
nothing.
fights his dad, then
He'll remember that.
remember that
Yeah.
and stab him in the exactly.
Yeah.
That's probably how. I mean, you know what I got to say? That's probably at least, if not the ending of this series or this season, if they do more, is him confronting his father and then battling and him killing him, and that's the end.
Yes.
Maybe because obviously the butterfly thing is going to get resolved, but that's. I think in some ways almost the MacGuffin, really, because it's like that's not really what the show's about. The show's about Peacemaker deciding whether he wants to be a hero or not, and what that means. So,
Right. Exactly.
anyway, I got to be honest. I was sort of not 100% sold on the show up to this point, but this episode pushed me to be sold on it now. So now I think it's because we got more character stuff, and that's more interesting to me than just blatant violence is great for a movie.
Sure.
Because
Yes.
here's a funny character in a sea of characters who are all over the top crazy. He's just one of the crazy and sort of funny and it's funny. He's a racist. He kills people. Funny, whatever. But that's not the main focus of the show. On a show that's focused on that would be tiring, and I wouldn't be interested in that over a couple of episodes. Like I wouldn't want to watch a show about Robert Patrick's character at all.
No.
And so
no, not at all.
the fact that they have to do this, or they should have done this with Peacemaker, and they are doing it, is caused me to be much more invested in the show now. So I'm in for the rest and see what happens. So
Definitely in for the rest of the season. I hope it continues past this season. Whether I don't know, I just like the cast, and I think they have great chemistry, and even if they are more like the Apple Dumpling Gang, but
they are. Well, they're dysfunctional.
it was pretty great.
I mean, Peacemaker never really had a family, so he's
Right.
He's trading. It's all about family. So he's trading it
Yes.
for a family that he's got now. So
So yeah, I hope it goes more than this season. I will be happy that we get this season if that's it. But I already have the feeling of I want to see more. So we'll see.
I mean, I think it's originally supposed to be a one-off, but I guess if it's popular and people can, get everybody
And
back
James
together.
has another story. Then,
If he does, yeah, but he's gonna be pretty busy. I mean, he's got Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is gonna take another year, and then when's he gonna squeeze this in? Maybe after that. So I guess it could work. Maybe, I don't know.
I at least hope it's not the last we see of these characters. Let's put it that way.
Well, again, I have no idea how it's doing if people are watching it
Yeah.
because HBO Max, like Netflix, doesn't release, and there's no ratings necessarily they're going to talk about.
Right.
I assume that if it's popular and James Gunn wants to do another one, they'll probably do another one. So they want.
Yep.
They also want to keep him in the Warner Brothers fold, I assume. So
It sounds like he's been entertaining a bunch of other DC properties and TV series and stuff like that. And I'm all for that.
he's a guy who wants to work, which I have no problem with. I think
Yeah.
that's great. And I think that he comes from a place, his background is like, working with trauma and all that stuff. It's like, if you get a job, you take it, right? It's like, I'm going to keep working. I got to keep working. I got to keep doing things. So I'm sure he'll do as many shows and as many movies as he possibly can for as many different people as he can. Because, you want to be a working director and you keep working. So, but yeah, Guardians is going to take time. But then you could do another season of this. And I would imagine if he was smart, and then we'll move on. But the deal was for multiple seasons because they're not stupid. It's like, well, we'll just lock you guys in for 3 seasons just for the hell of it, and
we'll see what
that costs money, obviously. But HBO, Warner Brothers has money, so
And they can do them whenever. It doesn't have to be like, oh, we need a season per year and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm sure they were like, I think any show does that at this point. It's like, let's do multiple season contracts. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul.
I mean,
right?
I would imagine also like with the cast, the only one who's really probably super busy is John Cena, and maybe Robert Patrick. He still works, but the rest of them are relative unknowns, right? So it's like you could certainly get them involved in a series for a few years, and Cena could squeeze this in. It's just James Gunn, really, I think, who's probably the busiest, and so unless he's willing to just write it and then let other people run it, which I guess is possible too. So anyway,
Well, that's possible. I don't know. We'll see. But,
yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
I guess we spend time worrying about the careers of super successful people, and we probably need to do that.
We do, don't we?
I hope James Gunn gets another project. I'm so worried about him.
I hope. I know. I want to see John Cena get more work after this. It'd be sad if this is
If
where
this
his
was it,
career
yeah, his
ends.
career ends right now. So. I only see.
I think he'll be
I'm
okay.
sorry, man. I only see you as Peacemaker. That's it.
Yeah, sorry. Can you put this on your head? No, it's not going to fit our show. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
just
Yeah,
can't.
but thank you. We're looking for someone exactly like you who is just not you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it
yes.
comes down to. Could you be?
Yep.
Could you be someone different? Anyway, speaking.
Could you be less you?
Could you be less you and more? Yeah. So speaking of, well, anyway, we should move on to. I don't really have a clever segue, so we'll just move on to the Book of Boba Fett.
Yes.
The Gathering Storm is the name of this episode that just came
Was
out.
that supposed to be his voice? That was not good.
I wouldn't know. That's supposed to be his voice, especially now that you said that. No,
No,
I
that's not at all
cannot
what
do.
that
I
was.
cannot do a New Zealand accent or whatever he's a Maori, so I can't really do that if I'm even saying that right. So, I mean, I know that's from New Zealand. That's just I can't do it.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can't do it. That was close, actually.
That was pretty close. That was good.
Everyone needs a family. No, I don't have it. Anyway, I'll stop now. So this episode had again some good parts and some not so good parts, which is how it seems to
Yeah.
go. Not directed by Robert Rodriguez, which was good.
Yes, that was a plus.
That's a plus right there. And so I liked some of it, and it's just it's nice to see the I'm going to use Slave One in quotes. Nice to see that ship come back. But here's my
Yes.
biggest question about this episode. Boba's talking about, he's talking with Fennec and they're having this conversation about, who killed the Sand People. And so he actually calls them Sand People, which is interesting. And then she calls them Tuskens, which I thought was a weird thing. Maybe he was just testing her to see what she would say. See if she was like a racist, like other people.
Exactly.
And she says, if they really did it, like there's a question about whether the biker gang actually killed the Tuskens. And he's like, interesting. But then almost in the next scene, he's gunning them down for no reason. Almost. Like, I'm going to fly behind these fuckers and I'm going to just blast all of them. And then I'm going to shoot a missile at the leader and blow him up for sure. So it's like,
that's a good thought, but I'm still going to go kill these people.
well, yeah,
so,
it's like, I just had a question. Like if you're not 100% sure if it was them, do you go and just blast them completely? I don't know.
Right.
So
right.
I mean, I guess it's the same thing about what's a hero, right? It's still gray areas. He's not a hero. He's an anti-hero, right? Because he's got a code, but he's not like a do-gooder. So is he killing? Yeah. Is he killing people? Is he killing these guys to prevent them from doing worse harm later? I mean, I don't know. He already did see them destroy another like moisture farm, so he knows they're assholes.
True.
They used to harass the Tuskens, right?
Used to kill Tuskens just for fun as they were driving by.
Right. So they probably did something, and so. But I just thought that was interesting because she's talking about how it might not be them, and he's like, I don't care, I'm going to go blast them, and she just sits there and goes, I like you, I'm going to go along for the ride. Well, so anyway.
Yeah,
it seemed odd to me. I don't know.
It seems like the flashbacks were intended. It's like, well, we gotta join the dots between when he left the Sarlacc pit and when he is now. And it just didn't. My impression overall is, and I hate to say this, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of thought put into this show. Like, I don't think it needed to be 7 episodes. I'm like, you really kind of probably could have told this in less episodes or told a different. It's like they're trying to tell 2 stories, but they're not really doing each of them very well.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
I think what you're seeing maybe is that I think you're right. They're trying to join the dots together with Mandalorian and even bring the Mandalorian into it. Because I feel like we'll see Din Djarin, maybe not next week, but because his theme song plays basically at the end.
I know at the end.
If you know where to find muscle, it's like okay,
yeah,
pretty serious. Yeah, there it is. That was it.
Okay,
thank you, Ludwig Göransson. So.
Yes.
It's just he's playing his pan flute in the background.
Because I mean, like the whole thing of him taking her to get the robot parts or the augments or whatever, it's like that just came out of nowhere. I mean, if when he went and attacked that gang at Tashi Station and maybe it was in the parlor where those guys do the modifications and be like, oh, that's how he knows about it. But it was just like he just knows, so he just like, oh, okay, I'll just do this, and then like you said, she's like, no, I'll go along for the ride. It's like, what? It just seems like there's no. We got to show these things, but we're not going to show a reason.
Well, you got to show them
why.
because they already happened, right? So obviously they get to get together. She shows up with him later,
right, and stays with him. But it was just like,
well, he saved her life. I mean,
I don't know.
I guess you could make the case that Boba has realized you don't leave perfectly good things in the desert to die, right? So it's like I'm not.
Well, he definitely likes large pets too.
Well, that's true. Maybe he thinks that Fennec is a pet, but I think he needs allies. Well, he even says, you can only go so long without a tribe or something. So it's like he's trying to build a tribe, and here's a perfectly good person that's just laying on the ground. I'm going to take them and fix them. So,
And then of course we have BK to show up again, just so people remember he's there. So when he shows up in the finale to help.
Well, no,
because I'm like, that's totally where that's going. He's going to show up and help Boba Fett.
Boba Fett hires him, doesn't he?
Oh, that's true.
Did you watch the show, man? You didn't watch the episode, did you?
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. It's just like,
no, he beats up the bar, and then Boba confronts him outside.
Right.
He's like, you want a job? And he's like, okay. Even though he could have just said that last episode instead, but
yeah, it's like, why'd you let him?
You were already at the palace. You might as well stay.
He was there. He's like, crap. Now I need to walk all the way back there. Jesus,
I gotta show my face around town. Why? I don't understand why you feel like you have to show.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so that's what I'm saying. It just seems like we're going to extend the story because we have 7 episodes to fill, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's not just that, too. I think you're absolutely right. It's like he came back in The Mandalorian, and that was a really cool thing to happen. And he's got Fennec Shand as his companion, and he's got the Slave One, or whatever we're going to call it now. How did that happen? We got to connect the dots. And I think the back to tank shit is, how do we connect the dots? You can't just, you could have just, I think, started this story from the beginning. You could have started, you don't have to do the flashbacks. You could have just started with him being pulled out of the pit and just told the story linearly, and he meets these people and the things that happen, and then it catches up with the regular timeline. I'm sure there was some reason for that. But I think you're right too. A lot of it is just this already happened in a different show. We have to show why it happened. But I don't know that you do. I don't know that you have to explain everything.
I don't think not in this detail.
Well, not in this detail. Maybe it's a case of we need 7 episodes or whatever. Maybe this could have been, the pamphlet of Boba Fett instead, or the, the short story of Boba Fett or something.
Yeah, or they could have done a streaming movie.
No, I mean,
Boba Fett.
But here's the other thing too. You know as well as I do. Also, Jon Favreau struggled for a long time to try to make it. So if someone says, hey, would you like to do a show about Boba Fett? You say, fuck yeah, I'd like to do a show about Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Can I get 12 episodes for that, or 15? No, we'll give you 10.
Right.
How about 8? How about 40? How about 7? You take what you can get, because you're still a struggling creator in your mind. So, what does there need to be 7 episodes? I don't know. It's funny though. I always felt that way about, we talk about like Charlie Cox and all the Marvel shows and Netflix shows. It's like they didn't have to be 13 episodes or whatever they were. There was definitely some filler. So if you took all the Boba Fett episodes and edited them more judiciously, they'd probably be 5 episodes, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's
also the fucking, I love the Banthas, but man, that is a slow way to get around.
Yes, it is.
I'm like, no wonder it takes forever to get anywhere. How did these I've always wondered how these giant creatures exist in the desert with all that hair, but that's a different story. It's like 90% they're like holding water inside their bodies, I guess, but at least we got the 12 guys puppeting the Bantha so we can eat now, instead of like in Star Wars where they didn't get to do that. But anyway,
I still like the show. I just feel like there's too much padding and filler.
It's hard for me. It's hard for me not to like it. I like Ming-Na. I think she's great, and I'm glad she finally got something to do in the episode besides stand around and look tough.
I think you kind of hit upon it, though. I think if you're going to do a Book of Boba Fett, then the show should have been the whole what happened after he escaped the Sarlacc pit, and then do a Fennec Shand show, or keep her as like on the Mandalorian, and she's like, hey, I'll help you out, or so. I don't know. I just think there's the
timeline. It can still be the same thing, and you just tell it more linearly. I don't know why we're doing the back to tank flashbacks. It doesn't make any sense, other than he's trying to heal himself, which he does heal. But it's like, why do they have to be flashbacks? Why not just tell the story linearly? Here's the beginning of the first episode, Boba Fett climbing out of the Sarlacc, and you just start telling the story from that point. Because if you look at the
Oh, that's true.
if you look at the timeline of Star Wars, I mean, he's with the Tuscans for like 5 years. So it's like,
Yeah.
shit,
Yeah.
what shit kind of goes on with them, and you just tell the story that way, and then eventually he meets Fennec Shand. He sees the things flashing in the distance, which is kind of a cool callback to that Mandalorian episode, because those are guys shooting the flares to try to blind Fennec
Yeah,
Shand,
yeah.
obviously, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
And he finds her and he saves her. I also think that the major sort of motivation for Boba Fett is that, and that's why you have flashbacks. Honestly, that's why they're doing it, so he can have
Sure.
flashbacks to when he was a boy, seeing
Right.
Django leave and not having a family, and what is you need a family, and he's never having one. He's been a mercenary his entire life, so
Right,
he
right.
sees this person injured. His sort of instinct is to save her and help her because he needs people. He's a bounty hunter who needs people.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
And so I'm just saying he's got a heart in the right place, and he's trying to build a family, the family he never had, and that's why he wants to rule with whatever it is instead of.
I just don't think it's written very well, because
they're not selling it very well. Yeah,
her switch, just like, oh, you blew up all those people. I'll stay with you.
maybe he's like,
what?
damn, you're cool.
Yeah, real. Maybe that's it. It's like, hook. I'm going to hang out with the hot bad guy.
Well,
the hot, dark guy.
You could also make the case that she's never had. Her life is lacking too. I mean, she's never had a family. I don't remember Fennec's background, but I'm assuming she was like an orphan or whatever, and lived in the streets of whatever, and learned to become an assassin. You don't become a master assassin, because you're having a happy family life, right? So you do that because you don't have anything. You're like whatever, but. I think that she's for the first time realizing that, also realizing her mortality, because how long can I do this shit? I got shot by some dude and I fucked that up. And so it's like, I need people. I need, groups. And plus Boba says more than one time, like, why are we trusting our fates to idiots? Right?
Yeah.
Why don't we be in charge of our fate? And she probably never thought about that before. She probably went, you know what? You're right. I think that's a good idea. I'm gonna hang out and see what happens. Also, I don't think she has a job right now. She's got nothing better to do. So at least she's getting 3 square meals and 3 hots and a cot.
I just still think they're showing us stuff or telling us stuff and not selling it very effectively. I mean, like the whole thing is like, when Stephen Root's character is like, oh, the streets are in chaos and stuff. I'm not really getting that.
Well, they're in chaos for him because the Utes are out there doing some shit.
Yeah, but it's like everything still looks pretty good. I don't see...
It looked as fucked up as it always did, basically. So
Right. Yeah, I'm like, I don't... So, I don't know. I just think they're like, we got to get to the next plot point, and not selling the previous ones very well, and they're all building on each other, so it's just, I don't know. I
just like things to be motivated by character. That's my big thing, and I think that a lot of people like that, and I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
It's like, why is Boba doing this? And if you make the case that he's doing it because he needs a family, then it kind of makes sense in a way.
But they're not really selling that well. It's like, is he doing it for revenge, or is he doing it because he needs a family, or is he trying to get a family because he needs help? I mean, it's
change is hard, and somebody said something that was interesting the other day. I don't know, it was on Twitter or whatever. I know something useful on Twitter for once. They made the case where humans make stupid mistakes all the time. We make bad decisions all the time. So having your characters make the perfect choice every time is kind of false. So maybe
it's fiction, though. That's
I know.
It's not supposed to be a real life. No. But if you have every single character all the time making inexplicable decisions, that doesn't add up well either.
I mean, I think that if Jon Favreau were here, he would probably say, he could tell us why they're deciding the things they're deciding. I'm sure it makes sense to him. It may not be coming across to viewers as well as he would hope it was, but I'm sure that there's motivation for all of these decisions, for Boba's character and for Fennec's character. And I think a lot of it has to do with what he said 2 times in the episode. You need people, you need a family. What he's trying to do, you're trying to build a whatever, and she says the same thing. You're trying to build a whatever it's called. And so I can't remember the word for it, but like a family, basically. And she's probably never even considered that was a good idea either, and never even thought about the possibility. But a near-death experience can change you, just like it happened to Boba Fett. A near-death experience can change you. So they have that in common too. And
that's true.
So I mean, I feel like there's something going on. It's not being presented in the most coherent way, and that's frustrating to me as a viewer. But I can see past that, and I know you can too. I can see past it to the sort of inner workings of the show and what Favreau is trying to go for, what Filoni are trying to go for. I can see it because I just know a lot about shows. That's true too. But
Yeah, and there is a lot of cases in the past with movies and TV shows where my brain was like, oh, well, that's why this happened. I can fill in the blanks, but there's a lot of blanks that are required and leaps in logic or story logic in my mind that are required for the show that are, I can get it. I'm like, fine, if we have 1 or 2 episodes that are like that, but it just feels like every episode has been like that. And I'm like, either you're rushing the story or they had to get the show done, and they did it pretty quickly. And maybe they, well, we just got to do this. And you didn't get the chance to fully write out, because we only had 7 episodes to fully write out each thing. I don't know what it is, but and again, I am not questioning their intention. I'm sure Favreau and everyone involved is like, man, we can tell a really cool Boba Fett show, and I'm absolutely positive that's what they have set out to do and what they hope they've done. It just feels like it's not hitting for me, and I don't know. Maybe I'm not explaining it.
No,
well.
you are. That's perfectly legit too. It doesn't. I feel the same way. It's not, and I don't mind sort of dangling questions, and I don't mind inexplicable decisions as long as they are eventually mostly explained, right? So if this
well, there's a lot of them,
right?
Though.
If this all pays off at the end, or if there's if it turns out that it was motivated by a character, if it turns out it was motivated by something, and it's explained, and it's like, oh well, that makes sense. Then that's fine. But
yes,
but again, you can also make the case with stories that there's not always a neat bow at the end, and it's not all tied up perfectly. Life is messy, Joe, especially if you're a bounty hunter trying to go good. And
it is.
I'm just saying.
It is.
So it's just maybe what you're reacting to is the feeling that I had originally. It was, as much as I like Boba Fett as a character because he was cool. I think part of the reason he was cool was the mystique. Was the he was
absolutely.
on screen for only a short amount of time, and yes, he did die stupidly, but he was still a badass for that short time he was around, and maybe that was enough. Maybe we didn't have to see all of that, or maybe what we got from the Mandalorian was that he was alive and just escaped the Sarlacc or whatever. That was enough. Maybe we didn't need a show at all.
I think I think the character would have been better served maybe not having his own show and being a recurring character on Mandalorian.
And just being a mystery.
Or one of the other shows.
Well, yeah, he'd just like show up occasionally and help out Mando and like, okay, peace out. I'm going back to Tatooine. I'm building this crime syndicate, whatever. But I think that the major motivation probably for we want to make a Boba Fett show was Favreau going, I fucking love Boba Fett and I want to make a Boba Fett show.
I've been wanting to make one for years.
Since I saw Return of the Jedi, and I thought it was total bullshit. Yeah. So I was like, I can understand that too from a fan perspective. It's like, this was bullshit. I'm going to correct this wrong, damn it. And I'm going to fix this problem.
I just think they were rushed because
maybe
they did it in a short amount of time. And but it's comparatively
TV.
To everything else.
How much time do you need to make TV? I mean,
well, I just don't think they had enough time to really work on the scripts. So,
or this is as good as that gets, man.
No, I don't believe that because Mando, that show is really good, and some of the other stuff they're talking about sounds great.
I just wonder.
I even at the time was like, do we need a Boba Fett show? And I was like, but I love Boba Fett like everyone else. I'll watch it. I just seems like if this, much like Mandalorian season 3, if they had said, you know what, we can't rush this because of COVID, we're gonna have to take a break and take some time. I think if they would have worked on the scripts a little bit more, it would have been better.
Maybe I just wonder if this is. Because if you look at something like Mando, that's not just Jon Favreau writing it. I mean, that's Filoni. I wonder if Filoni had less to do with this show because he's too busy with other things, and just maybe this is more Favreau. Because as much as I like him as a director and whatever, I mean, I don't know if his writing is the strongest ever. And so maybe this is his, if you watch something like Swingers, it's like the motivation for what the characters do in Swingers is not exactly, they want to get laid, when to get those, whatever.
Right.
When do you call your babies? 6 days, whatever. And so it's like, maybe he's not as money as he thinks he is. I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Listen, I'm the first person to say I love a Boba Fett show. The idea of the character I've always loved. In fact, if you look around my office, which you can't see, obviously, the only action figure I have from Star Wars is a Boba Fett. It's literally a 16-inch Boba Fett thing right there, and then I have 2 Captain Americas, and then like a couple of AT-ATs and shit. So that should tell you what I care about. Just the bad guys, basically, except Cap, of course. But it's like I've always liked the character, but again, I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that he was on screen very little and had a mystique about him, and was like, obviously they explored that a little bit more in like Clone Wars and stuff in the animated show, which I didn't.
Yes.
It gave him a little bit more, but the fact that he was a cool character who was sort of a mystery, and then the fact that he died so stupidly, I think is the biggest motivation for people. It's like it's almost like a betrayal. I think what it was, George betrayed us, and we're like, what the,
Well, build up this cool character and then use him as a punchline.
Well, yeah, and we talked about that before. It's like I think that above anything else, almost is the motivation for Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. It's like, this was not cool. This will not stand. We must remedy the situation. And we've talked about this a couple of times already, but and I was fine with that too. I'm like, I will watch it. And then when he came back in Mandalorian, I was excited. I was like, that's cool. And then the thing at the end when he's like, he kills Bib Fortuna and they stand by the throne, that could have been enough. I was like, look, he's ascending to the throne. Yes. He's gotten revenge. He's installed himself as the new Jabba or whatever. Awesome. Character arc finished.
So they could have, anytime Mando goes to Tatooine or something, he could stop by.
Exactly.
It's like, dude, you can crash on the floor of my throne.
You can crash on my couch. Just don't sleep on the Rancor pit, though.
Yeah, don't sleep right there because that's a trapdoor.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
I think that's true, and I am glad though that the character gets to have that kind of redemption. But I think you're right. I don't think we didn't have to see him escape from the Sarlacc pit.
No, you could.
It's obvious he did, right?
You could have seen that. You could have shown that. It could have been like a movie, the Boba Fett movie or something. It could have been like a 2-hour show where you see what happens and you're done. And then one other question.
And he continues to show up because they're building the Ahsoka show and a couple other series like this little mini universe for Mando. Sure. You could have had him show up on any of those, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, maybe they had to lock him in too. Who knows? Maybe Timur Morrison.
Yeah, maybe.
But the only other question I had about Boba Fett's intelligence, if you will, is why does he go back to the pit looking for his armor when he was clearly was clearly conscious when the Jawas took it from him? It's like he's awake. He grabs the Jawa's leg,
Yeah.
And so
anyway,
whatever.
But he's certain his armor's in the Sarlacc pit. What?
I just think it was so we could go back to the Sarlacc pit and people could look at it and see that the beak is there. And the tentacles from the redo.
They had to finally let him kill the Sarlacc.
Well, that's it. It's closure for him and killing. Oh, but he doesn't even do it. Fucking Fennec throws the torpedo in there.
Oh, that's true.
The seismic charge, which is also cool. I just think they did.
That was a nice callback.
It was a nice callback to Anyway, to when he was fighting Obi-Wan.
But that part too. Again, it was like
but that was Django who did that to Obi-Wan. So
why? True, but why would he think his armor was in the Sarlacc pit and he was certain that it was in there? I'm like, what? So,
and I thought that
that's what I'm saying. I don't think the scripts were.
And I also thought that it was determined in Mandalorian that his armor was not Beskar. Did I just not think of that? Because he says that specifically. Wouldn't it be dissolved? He's like, not Beskar. It's like, well, I thought your armor wasn't Beskar because you're not an actual Mandalorian. So I don't know what.
Right.
Anyway, whatever. There are some questions.
I don't think the scripts were.
Well, you don't remember what you said in your own show.
Right.
Like you're the one who said this in the Mandalorian episode. You don't remember that happened like 6 months ago in your own show. So no one is around to. I mean, maybe that's what happens when you create a show and work on a show in a vacuum, and you don't have a lot of people around you saying, "John, I don't know." So maybe you shouldn't write all the episodes. I don't know. You should maybe more collaborative. Maybe Jon Favreau is just a dick. We don't know. I doubt it, but
I don't think
I have a hard time.
No, I don't think that's it.
The fat guy's never angry, or maybe he is. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Dang, dude.
But remember, he'll get you all the cheeseburgers you want, so you're all right.
He will, only if you're
a small child whose dad just saved the universe. So anyway, I don't hate it. There are lots of things I like about it. It's just it's confusing and it's somewhat annoying, but I'm obviously going to stick with it. And so I don't.
Oh yeah.
My barometer of things I hate or don't like and don't want to watch is still Y: The Last Man. So if it's not as bad as that. I'm still going to keep which is a high,
which I'll remind everyone is finally dead.
which is
So,
terrible. Yeah, it was a terrible show. So
yes.
this is definitely much better. And I like Boba Fett. I like Tamara Morrison. I like seeing BK. I think he's a cool character. I like seeing
Yes.
Ming-Na, of course, can do anything, I think, and it's great to see her in the show. And I'm sure we'll get Mando, maybe Grogu, because in the timeline, Grogu is still with him. So in theory,
Yes.
Grogu could show up next week and throw throw the Force around a little bit or whatever. I don't know.
Well,
I doubt
and
they'll bring Grogu back, but you never know.
all these disparate story points that are like, well, that doesn't make sense and that doesn't tie back. That still kind of falls into the tradition of Star Wars, right?
Well, that's true. Star Wars is a mess.
The movies contradicted each other frequently.
Well, it's all Joe. It's all true from a certain point of view. So that's all you got to worry about.
That's right. My armor is in the Sarlacc pit from a certain point of view.
It's Beskar from a certain point of view. If you want it bad enough, it is Beskar.
So just mentally amend all the lines in the show with from a certain point of view.
Yeah, that's the answer. It's like,
there you go.
Why are you macking on your sister? Because I don't know. It's my sister. I don't care.
Why is the overhead shot of that set show that it's actually a set? It's only a set from a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view, yeah. So why does the Empire believe in railings or OSHA safety protocols? They don't believe in any of that shit.
We have railings from a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view. If you imagine the railings are there, they are there.
If you squint and believe the railings are there, they're there.
That's right. If you want them bad enough, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, but yeah, I mean that's the thing. Maybe we're overanalyzing a show where they have with laser swords, and I'm just saying. So
right, with space wizards and
laser swords, yeah. Yeah. And dragons and giant elephants that are dressed like banthas and whatever.
Yes, exactly.
And Wookiees.
Poor elephants.
Yeah, that's supposed to be hot in there, man.
I know.
Although in this show in Mando, it's not, or in Boba
They're not on location in a desert.
Well, it's not. It's not an elephant. It's all animatronic.
Right, but they're still also on a set with a video wall. So
that's true too. But there's like 12 guys puppeting that bantha. There's no animal at all.
I know. But no elephants were enslaved.
Were harmed
for the making of this show.
We didn't send them to the freaking desert in wherever they filmed. I forget where they
sent them to Tunisia.
Yeah.
Tunisia and cover them in fur.
Are elephants native? I don't think there's any elephants in Tunisia. Probably. I don't know enough about Tunisia to know anything. But anyway,
didn't they use elephants though originally?
They did in Star Wars, but not in this. That's all fake.
Do they have to ship them in or something?
Can you fly an elephant on a plane? I guess you can. If it's
I don't know,
but I can't imagine they did that.
Fly anything, I would guess.
Well, those giant like transport ships that take tanks. I guess you could take an elephant too. So
sure.
Anyway, I imagine they would probably bring them on ships, though. I don't really know. It's probably not something we have to get into.
No,
where did the elephants come from? Where did they come from? I don't know. Anyway, all right. So should we go to picks now and get?
We should. Get us
out of this elephant hole that we're in, elephant-sized hole that the show is falling into.
Yes, this 1,000.
They have elephants.
1,000-pound Sarlacc pit. That
they have elephants if you believe they're there. They're really there. So yeah, the whole thing's make believe. So it doesn't matter.
They're elephants from a certain point of view.
Right. Exactly. So what's your pick this week, Mr. Joe? Sir.
My pick is going to be an absolutely silly one, and it's only because I dearly love this. My pick is the opening title sequence for Peacemaker.
Oh, come on.
Because that is like the best thing ever. And I will never hit skip intro.
No, I watch it every time too. I have to be honest.
I have it bookmarked on YouTube, and it's just this insane combination of a pretty dynamic, kind of 80s sounding hairband song with this just crazy dance routine by everybody in the cast, even people that have only appeared once.
Yeah, the janitor is there from the hospital the first episode.
Yes. And the fact that they're all like deadpan is pretty great. I mean, even what's her name's wife gets to throw in middle fingers, and it's just, I don't know. I find something in it every time I watch it. And then the whole kind of send up on it at the end with the eagle coming in and screeching, and they're all clearly like standing there trying to be still, and they're all breathing. It's just, I don't know. It's probably the greatest opening title sequence of any show ever. It's just amazing.
I just love the fact that the song is called "Do You Want to Taste It?"
Yes,
it's awesome.
Yes.
You would think it's like an old '80s hair band show song, but it's not. It's actually a modern song.
No, it's not.
but it
Yeah.
fits perfectly with the sensibility of the show. I love the needle drops in the show. I mean, obviously James Gunn is a big fan
Yes.
of music, so I love the fact that it's 80s metal, which I liked when I was a kid. So
Well, and even the behind the scenes video they did of the making of the opening sequence is funny because like Jennifer Holland completely deadpans. Well, I feel like the song asks a really compelling question.
Totally,
I mean,
yeah.
do you want to taste it?
Do you
And
want to taste
totally, it's just, I don't know. I would go on holiday in James Gunn's brain because he's just seems to be, even though he does stuff that is like crass and over the top violent, he seems to just be a joyous kind of person. And just the fact that it's like, no, of course the opening title sequence is going to be a dance number. You know, why wouldn't it be? It's like, okay.
Why wouldn't it be
you
indeed?
know?
Yeah, exactly.
And as he points out, I have a dance sequence in like everything I do. And it's like, well, of course you do. It's just,
Maybe he wants to do a musical at some point, like an entire musical.
he should. He totally should. That would be
I would watch
great.
that. I'd watch that.
Yeah. So anyway, that I know it's silly, but that's my pick just because I can't stop watching it and I can't stop thinking about it. So there you go.
No, it's
and
funny.
Eagly is like the coolest character ever. So
It's
there you
it's
go.
interesting that you mentioned the title sequence because I was watching it closely this time, and especially with the twist at the end of this episode, it's interesting that Jennifer Holland's character and that character come out of the thing together, and they're
Yeah.
kind of almost like puppets in a way, right?
Yes.
So I'm wondering if
Yes.
she's going to turn out to be whatever too. No spoilers, but
maybe.
I don't know. I assume there's more to it than just that, other than the fact that you have a rockin' song about do you want to taste it? Because that is an important question for our times.
It
and also, I
is.
think that should be the title of this episode. But
There you go.
there you go. Anyway, all right. So
Or that, or this is the one that gives you scabies.
yeah, where does that come from? I was confused by that.
That was the after title sequence that expanded on Peacemaker's dad showing him the helmets, and it just comes right in
Oh,
where he's
that's
like,
right.
and this one gives you scabies. Every man should get scabies or something like
There you
that.
go,
He's
there
like,
you
no, Dad.
No, Dad, you racist dick. Anyway, that's right. I totally forgot that. That's right. Because this is like totally inside baseball, but you were mentioning that about the title for the last episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't get it, but it was too late because I'd already picked something.
That
else.
line just struck me as funny because it's like, why would you make a helmet that gives you scabies?
I don't even know. I don't know. Well, because you're a racist. Duh.
Right, exactly.
Racism.
Exactly.
That's the answer to
Yes.
everything. So you're just not woke enough, Joe. That's the problem.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Anyway, no, I don't know what that means, but that's funny. Anyway, all right, so that's a good pick. I think it's great because you can actually just watch the title sequence on YouTube. It's there, and you can
Absolutely.
just revel in the craziness.
Absurdity of it.
Well, and I got to think, like we were saying, I got to think that there's more to just the title sequence. Because why would you do that other than you like a dance number? But there's got to be more to it. What characters
Well,
are in there,
like,
what they're doing, so.
And like the ninja assassin guy comes out at the end and jumps up on his shoulder. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
So do they become buddies? Is that so? Maybe there is more to what the characters are doing in the opening sequence than we think.
I just
mean, it's
don't.
possible.
I just don't feel like you. Other than it's like it's cool and absurd and it fits with the show. It's like I don't know why you would do that without maybe more context or more subtext. I don't know. Maybe you would. Maybe just because it's fun. But maybe there's other things going on too. So I guess we'll find out. But anyway, my pick this week is a show on Netflix that I was aware of and people were like, oh, you should watch this. And I was like, I don't know. I did try to watch the first episode and it didn't thrill me before. I don't know why, but because it's my kind of thing. Anyway, I'm talking about The Witcher. On Netflix,
yes.
which I was like not into for some reason at the beginning. I was like, it's okay. I think it was.
I couldn't get past 2 episodes.
It was a bit confusing, a little bit like the jumping around the timelines. Like, oh, this character seems important, but then is dead in the first episode or whatever.
Right.
So that didn't make sense. But I stuck with it this time, and I got to tell you, it is my jam. I really, really liked it, and I binged the whole first season. I'm like, oh, season 2, awesome, and I binged the whole second season, and I'm done in like 3 days. And I'm sad that it's over, and I know there's another season, but I really enjoyed it because I like Dungeons and Dragons, and it's kind of like D&D-esque in a way. There's wizards and magic, and this guy who takes a formula and becomes a super fighter. I know it's based on a series of books and also a very, very popular game series.
Yes.
That's where the IP comes from. But and Henry Cavill's great, and the supporting cast is really good. There's like actors I've never seen before, really, and it's sort of breaking out. I'm really enjoying it a lot. And if you haven't watched it, which maybe you have, because I'm not talking about you, Joe, I'm talking about other people, but maybe you missed it, or maybe you just didn't give it a chance, or whatever for whatever reason. It was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. So anyway,
I plan on revisiting it. Like I said originally, I only got like 2 episodes in, and I was just like, I don't really. I don't understand what's going on, and I don't really. There were no characters that I connected with right away.
Not even Henry Cavill, because
No,
he's awesome.
And I know. So, but everyone else has told me they were like around like the third or fourth episode in the first season, it just like clicks and you're off, and it's really great.
There are some things in it that are sort of annoying, and they do gloss over some sort of plot points, and I feel like that's because there's a difference between, I don't know, there's a difference in sense
There's
of
a lot to say or a lot to
it's,
put
I mean,
in,
when you're based on books, yeah, it's different, but it's like
Yeah.
there's a lot to say, but it's like there's also a disconnect in some ways with like language and things too, because the books are the writer's Polish, so I'm wondering if there's some, I could be totally wrong, but there's some kind of things that happen, some sensibilities that are slightly different maybe, but the show is
so here's what
I liked it a
bothered
lot.
me, and
Tell me.
I'm remembering now what bothered me is 2 episodes in, it felt like to me that they wrote it and made it for fans of the book, so like they were expecting you knew everything about this universe jumping in, and I was like, I don't. You're not letting me know enough detail what is going on. So it's like don't assume that I've read the books or I'm familiar with the game. Don't assume I'm familiar with the IP. Bring me in as a new person. And I felt like they didn't do that, but I'm told stick with it and it will make sense. It will fall into place for you. So I do plan to go back and rewatch both seasons. So
yeah, you should. And you're right. I think the first episode is, I don't know if that was the best episode to start with, to be honest. It's a little bit confusing. They talk about, your destiny, whatever. And then there's this, the hot wizard chick or the hot sorceress, and they ended up,
right.
And then she ends up dying. Spoilers, sorry.
Right.
It's
I was just like,
so this character's not important. And so all her job was to introduce Geralt and sort of like, you understand who the Witcher is now and what he does, kind of, but it didn't make sense. I fight monsters or whatever, but the real monsters are people.
Right.
But then they have that guy, the wizard guy, comes in and talks about how there's like a chosen child or whatever. But as it goes along, yeah, you need to go a couple more episodes in, and then you start to get all the divergent timelines, because there's 3 main characters that you're kind of following. One of them is Henry Cavill, but there's 2 other ones too,
right?
And you see their kind of backstory, and it's not presented perfectly. So while you're watching the story of the young girl, you don't necessarily realize that that's way in the past.
Right.
And so
it was just like, I just thought it was parallel, and
it's not, and that's maybe a production problem or a writing problem, but it's like, because in the books, if I recall correctly, you don't meet any of these other characters until the end of the first book almost. So you're basically with Geralt and Henry Cavill's character through most of the book. And so eventually, and obviously in the game, you're playing him in the game, right? So you just they bring these characters forward more in the story, and it's sort of weird how they, what happens. Like they have the and also it's like the girl that you meet is sort of deformed in a way, and then later on she becomes, anyway, you just got to stick with it, and it's worth it. It's really good, and I was surprised at how much it's like one of those slow builds. It's like, yeah, I think you're right, though. I think they assume that you've read the book, and you're like, oh, okay, I know what's going to happen. I know all this stuff,
or at least familiar with the universe, and it's like, I just don't feel like they. Well, and I do hate shows that spoon feed, and I'm definitely against that. I just think there was a better balance of
maybe
recognizing there's some people new to this, as well as giving something to fans. So
yeah,
but maybe that does happen. And like I said, I definitely plan to revisit and watch it all the way through, because I keep hearing. From trusted sources, including you, I keep hearing from people that, no, really, you got to stick with it, because it's really, really good.
I'm telling you, I felt the same way you did the first time I tried to watch it. I was like, no, this isn't for me. And then I think it was, I saw Henry Cavill getting interviewed on something, talking about the reason he did this show, because he's like a movie star, and like, why did you do this show? And he's like, I love the IP, I love the games, I love the books, I've been a fan of the games for so long. He's like talking about, I think Witcher 3 is my favorite. He's like, I play on PC only. He's such a fucking nerd, and his passion for the project and his passion for doing it was infectious. And I was like, you know what, Henry, all right, I'm gonna give you a chance, because you've convinced me. I'm going to go back and try to stick with it more. And so I did, and I was happy that I did because it ends up paying off, and I enjoyed it a lot more this time
Yeah.
around
Okay.
because I just kept going.
Okay.
And
All right.
also as well as I do that making a show, especially the first season of a show, is hard. It's like, what do you do? How
Absolutely.
do you
Yes.
start, and what do you do, and how do you get how do you make it accessible to noobs, but also be true to the story and whatever. And the showrunner and the writer does make a lot of changes from the books, from what I understand, especially like introducing these characters much earlier. And so I'm sure she got some backlash for that from the fans. But
Right. Right.
for people who never seen or read the books or even played the game, it was good, I think, because you really want to know these characters and how they interact, and when they get together finally, which spoiler they do,
Yeah. Right.
it's very satisfying. It's like, oh, finally,
Okay.
And there's definitely a couple of points where like they're in the same place, but they're like passing each other. It's like, he's right there, just fucking turn around, And I got
Yeah.
that same feeling from watching Station 11 too. I don't. It's a totally different segue or a segue to a pick from before, but there's a scene in Station 11 where you like want these two characters just like turn and see each other, and they don't until later. It's like, fuck, you've been waiting years to get back together, and so
They're right there.
it's right there.
Yeah.
Just turn a little bit, yeah. And so it definitely comes together better. And again, it's like wizards and monsters and sword fights and
Yeah, I'll definitely give
shit
it
that I
another
love.
chance.
And Henry Cavill's
Yeah.
great. And
Yeah.
and he's he's just a funny nerd guy who it's weird. He's as well known for his looks and his body and all working out shit as he is for anything else. But he wasn't like that originally. I mean, when I first saw him, it was
No.
like that Showtime show about the Tudors. Remember that show?
I saw him on Stardust.
Yeah, he was like a regular dude. He was like a skinny, not
Yeah,
skinny, but like a
exactly.
regular looking dude. It's like he just fucking
Yeah.
bulked up, and now he's known for his physique and everything. And
Yeah.
he does get his kid off quite a bit in this show, as they say.
Well, and yet he does videos about building gaming computers, which is awesome.
Well, he's still a nerd, and again, it was
Yeah.
just mostly because of his passion for it and his talking about how much he loved it and why he wanted to do it, because he didn't have to do a Netflix show,
Right.
He's got features, he's got giant movies to do, but it's like
Yeah.
I knew it was in development, so I lobbied for the role. I wanted to do this, and I'm like, you know what, man,
That's cool.
That's cool. So anyway, so find the Flickcast at Spotify and at Apple Podcasts and other places where you find podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube if you want to listen to the show. We haven't done video yet, but it's still coming someday. You can find our Patreon at patreon.com/TheFlickcast, and you can find Joe and I on the socials. Joe is at What Joe Writes, and I am at Chris Yu on Twitter, and then at Ulrich Picks at Instagram. And then you can find the Flickcast at TheFlickcast, which is pretty easy to remember, pretty much anywhere. Anything else? I think that's pretty much it, right? That's a full show.
I think that is it.
I've done a lot of talking, and so have you, and so I'm tired.
Yes.
All right, cool. So for Joe Dilworth, I'm Chris Ulrich. That was the Flickcast. Thanks so much for listening.